very much for coming. For those of you who don't know me, and a lot of you do know me and know me very well, I'm Rachel Ballard, and I'm a registered nurse, been a nurse for 20 years. And my story is a little bit complicated, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So tonight we are here to talk about food as medicine for pain and chronic illness. We're going to talk about 10 food groups, is kind of how I've broken it down, that really make a difference in controlling our inflammation and chronic disease. And this is a very powerful thing to say, but I do believe that there are no diseases and no illnesses that would not respond to this type of treatment. And everybody comes to me, and I hear this a lot from people all over the world who talk to me. They think that this won't apply to them. They're like, but I have this condition and I have that one. Will this work for me? And it's always yes, it will. And so it seems too simple, but we'll talk our way through it. So a little bit of my story. In 2019, I got up one morning and couldn't walk. Or couldn't walk well, we'll say that for sure. My husband was carrying me up and down the stairs. It hit me out of the blue. And we proceeded for about a couple of years to try traditional medicine. It actually made me worse. And it was at the end of September of 2020, the doctors at the University of Kentucky told me to go home and wing it with a progressive paralyzing disease. So I have chronic Guillain-Barré syndrome. Only 6 in a million people have this disease. And it's also known as CIDP, chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which is a mouthful to say. It was actually my second autoimmune disease. My first one was Hashimoto's, which is very, very common. It's a thyroid disease. I got that when I was 26, I think. So I started really, really early. And when doctors couldn't treat me, the standard Band-Aid treatments for my illness are a couple of infusions. There's something a little bit like dialysis they use, but nothing that treats the root cause. There's no pill. And so when it didn't work, they just said, we don't know what to do. Let's go home and take care of yourself. And so I was sent home at 41 to die. They said, pick out a nursing home. That's where you will end up, and that will be your future. And I was not going to do that. So I said to my husband in the car on the way home, I said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to do it on my terms. And I'm going to pick out exactly what my life looks like. Still hard. So this was me in my wheelchair in December of, 2020. I was in the wheelchair for 7 months, and this was as far as I could walk. It was about 20 steps, and I can tell you that that day someone had dressed me. It wasn't me because I couldn't dress myself. Someone else had fixed my hair. It was probably my daughter because I couldn't brush my own. I couldn't brush my own teeth. And I didn't have on any shoes because I couldn't stand the pain of shoes on my feet. So that was as far as I could walk. And I actually remember Logan took that video. And as soon as he turned the camera off, I just collapsed. Since there's a little chair kind of over in the corner, I just kind of collapsed on the chair. So that was as far as I could go. And so everything else we had to do, I did from my wheelchair. This was December, November, December range. This was June. This was my very first trip out of the house. And you'll see I have a brace on my foot right here. That's because that leg was still paralyzed and my foot just hung there. It's called drop foot, and we have a paralyzation of the peroneal nerve in the knee. And so I was stuck like that, but that was my first trip out of the house, and I was tickled pink that I had actually had the access and the ability to go to the grocery store. And so the kids took that picture of me, and it was a really, really great day. This girl is the same girl, 3 years apart. And you might look, we were talking about this beforehand, the girl on the left doesn't look too bad. If you just saw that picture stand alone, you would think, oh, well, that person doesn't look too bad. But what I see when I look at that is a very tired face. Look at my eyes. That photo was heavily photoshopped. I had hair extensions in because my hair was falling out. Everybody who talks about all this chronic hair loss from autoimmune diseases, I was experiencing that. I'd lost about a third of my eyebrows. I was overly stressed from work. And the same picture taken in pretty much the same spot, the same time of day, about 3 years apart. And this girl, she's aged a little bit, but she's feeling better. I've grown hair. That's all my own hair. This is all my own hair, no hair extensions. And my face is generally brighter. You know, I feel a lot better. And so there have been a lot of changes, but food has been, you know, a lot of that. So this was a video of me. I'd lost all of the muscles in my hips, and I couldn't stand up, just climb stairs. I couldn't support my body. So I crawled, and I probably hadn't been up these stairs in 4 or 5 months. I don't even remember what I was up there for. And if you watch really close, you'll notice that my feet just flop when I try to, you'll see it here in a second, when I try to get up the steps, they just kind of are dead weight underneath me. And this was how I got around from day to day. And as a mother with 2 businesses, 2 children, and a farm, this is not the way you want to spend your life. And this was what I was sent to deal with alone. So that one, and then this was just a few weeks ago. I'm still not a super great skipper, but I have come an awfully long way in my progress. And so I'm really proud of how this has gone. We'll talk about a lot of things with this. So let's talk about the disclaimers really quick. Just so you know, this is for informational purposes and is not medical advice. I want you to always talk to your trusted medical professional before you do anything with your health. We're all a little bit different, right? We're all different people. So no diet is exactly cookie cutter or one size fits all. Just make sure that you're talking to someone who has a little bit of guidance in that. Never consume a food that gives you a true anaphylactic allergy. That's wheezing, your hives, you've got swelling of the mouth or throat. If you have those things, please don't eat anything that's going to cause a problem for you. But my practitioners taught me, unless you're anaphylactic, you need to eat it if it's good for you, okay? That means if it gives you gas, if it makes you have diarrhea, we don't care. We want you to eat it anyway because it's good for you and your body will get over it, okay? And that's what I was taught. So you do what you need to do, and then the rest of that is just disclaimers that I want you to use good wisdom, please. 4 facts you need to know. We are in a society that expects food to work as quickly as pills or as an infusion or whatever, and it does not. I was a solid 7 months into this with no cheating, no diet cheating at all. Hardcore, all the things that I was taught to do before I even saw a glimmer of change in my body. Most people are going to give up before they get to that point. They're going to be like, well, all you've asked me to do is spend quadruple on my groceries, and I'm not changing. It takes time. So you have to trust the process. It's also very, very normal to be off-put by the taste of wholesome food. Like we were having a discussion before class about sauerkraut. It is normal for your body to not like healthy food. We live in a society where our food has been scientifically and genetically engineered to be addicting. It's full of MSG, it's full of sugar, and your body says, and believe it or not, the 70 trillion bacteria that live inside your body are controlling your cravings, and they don't live well on whole foods. So when you put in something that is healthy, they go, this is not going to keep me alive. Brain, signal is, I don't like what you fed me. I want you to not like this, okay? It takes time to shift that balance inside the body, so be patient with that. Remember that this is the kind of thing that if you go to your doctor and you say, is food going to help me? They're either going to say no or I don't know, right? We all agree that certain diet changes are important, but they don't have the training. So it's important to find someone who is trained in food as a specific tool for healing. I use a functional nutritional therapist. That's who I work with. She's not a nutritionist. She's not a dietitian. She is specifically someone trained in food for medicine. And it's an amazing specialty. Know that no one does this perfectly. There is no perfect diet. There is no perfect way to do it. Don't give yourself a pass to fall off the wagon and stay off the wagon. But when you do fall off, get back on, right? Okay, we talk about the elephant in the room, which is all the conflicting information out there. Anybody ever done a Google search? What'd you come up with? A lot of confusing stuff, right? Eggs are good, eggs are bad, meat is good, meat is bad. Like you can't figure it out. So how do you choose? What I did was I looked to people who've had success, right? I wanted to go to people who knew firsthand some sort of experience, and I wanted to study up on what they were doing. And although we all are a little different, we do some adjusting. That's what I did. I also went to people who are credentialed in their field, who do this for a living. So that's where I went, and then I had to just like put on my blinders, not pay attention, do not be on Google, do not get sucked into everything else. Pick a path, believe in what you pick, and follow it, right? I didn't know if it was going to work. I told God, you got to just let this help, please. I didn't know, but I had to choose something, and that was what I chose. Understand that the food industry is lucrative, and food manufacturers have a lot at stake, okay? Marketing is heavy. People want to make sure that you get one message and one message only. You have to look past a lot of that. I stuck in this data. It's a little bit old. During 2012, our friends at Monsanto, Bayer, who make Roundup and glyphosate, spent a little over $6 million on lobbying it in Washington, D.C. to make sure that their agenda was forwarded, right? It's really important to understand that the people who have their dollars in this are spending a lot of money on making sure that you don't know what will help your body. It's very important to them because it doesn't work. The system's not set up for that. Okay, what you're not going to do after this class. You're not going to count calories. I haven't counted a single calorie since I started. It's not about the calorie, okay? If it were calories in, calories out, how many of us would have lost weight a long time ago, right? It's not about that. So we're not going to count any calories. We're not going to throw away the food we already have. I think with the cost of groceries, it would be irresponsible of us to just pitch out what's in our house. So instead, you look at it from the mindset of, let me use up what's here and then have a plan so that when I use it up, I can replace it with something better, right? Don't change everything at once. Unless you're an all or nothing kind of person and you're really good at that, I am terrible at that. If you want to stick to something for 2 weeks or 6 weeks, go in all the way and you'll just fall off the wagon when you get burned out, right? So instead, little changes. Make the change, get used to having that change in your life, and then when you're used to that one, add another one, right? That's the way that things stick. Don't stop shopping expensive specialty stores. Everybody thinks that a healthy diet means you either eat all of the store, and it's like 4 times the price of everything else, or you don't have to have a Whole Foods or Sprouts or a Trader Joe's to do this. I shop at Aldi, Kroger, and Meijer here in town. Now, I don't get everything perfect, but like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. So it's your prerogative, but you don't need a specialty store, okay? You don't have to have all organic food. Certain items are preferred organic. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but you do not need to have an entirely organic diet to do this. You don't need to get overwhelmed. Just pick one thing, right? Just focus on one thing tonight that you can identify that you can change. So the core principles of the diet that I do and the way that you're going to get better is, the first thing is digestion. The doctors that I see, they call her up. I'm in my wheelchair. I'm terribly sick, and she was like, we need to teach you how to eat in a way that your body can absorb your nutrients and also clear toxins. That's what we're going to teach it to do. So we started with simple digestive enzymes. You think, really? This is where this starts? Like, where's all the more powerful stuff? No. She gave me digestive enzymes. She taught me how to eat in a rested state, because a body that is rested is a body that can clear, right? And so we learned to eat by not eating in the car, sitting at the table, taking deep breaths, focusing on the food in that moment, and eating really slowly. That was very, very important. It seems simple. It's too simple, but that's how it goes. Gut health was the next thing. So when I say gut, I'm referring to the 70 trillion bacteria that are inside your intestines and from your mouth to tail. Come on in. Fine, sit wherever you want. Mouth to tail. So these bacteria are responsible for your weight, your mood, your mental state, your food cravings, and so much of your health, okay? Your immunity, all of that is living in these bacteria. They are powerful. And then the other thing that happens here is that your gut lining is the gatekeeper between your bloodstream and your intestines. So when this gets broken down, it gets tired, it gets irritated or inflamed, then things start crossing into the bloodstream before they've had time to break down. Dairy is it's a tremendous problem for this, and so is gluten, okay? They love to slip through and get out into the bloodstream where they float through your body, and your body says, what are you doing in here? I don't know what you are, let me attack you, okay? And so then we end up with food allergies, we end up with autoimmune diseases, and so when we re-strengthen the lining of the gut, we're able to heal up a lot of things. And then detoxification. We would have to have another class in order to cover all of the toxins and all of the exposures, and we can't live inside a plastic bubble. But we want to focus on helping our body get rid of the things that it doesn't need, okay? So we do that through good sleep. So many of us in America are sleep deprived, and when we do sleep, we don't sleep well. Your body clears and detoxifies itself during sleep. So it's very, very important that we're prioritizing that, and that we are cleaning up the daily exposures, things we put on our body, what we cook in, all of those things matter, but they're for another class. So we want to focus, though, on reducing our body's total burden, right? And there's no one food that makes people sick. There's no one way we got there. But it's the compounding effect of a little of this and a little of that and a little from over here that ends up piling up on us day after day after day. So it's very important that we focus on ways to reduce the burden on our body and give it less to have to work through. So I'm not going to tell you what you can't eat, Okay, when we do that, we end up feeling like the life has been sucked out of our souls, and we just don't want to do that. So I want to tell you what you can eat. The diet that I teach and the one that I was trained in is called, really by no name except traditional eating, or some people call it the Nourishing Traditions diet. There's an amazing author named Sally Fallon who wrote a book in the early 90s called Nourishing Traditions, and that is the foundation of what I do. So what do you get? You get homemade broths and stocks. We'll talk about these in a minute. Saturated fats, butter, lard, duck fat, coconut oil, beef tallow, the complete opposite of what we're told to eat, right? Non-starchy cooked vegetables. We're not going to eat any kale salads. I don't know if anybody else is excited about that, but everybody thinks I have to have kale and baked chicken. We'll talk about why there are no salads on this diet. Whole fruits, no juices and juicing. We'll get into that in a minute. Raw and cultured dairy, so full-fat yogurts, kefirs, aged cheeses, pasture-raised eggs, locally raised meats, if you can do that, wonderful, wild-caught fish, and then sprouted, or what we also call activated nuts, seeds, and beans and lentils. So if you're wondering where the bread is, there isn't any. Okay, so the next thing you're going to think is, Rachel, this food is expensive. You know what it is. I'm going to tell you about a diet that costs probably double what you're spending on groceries right now. But we want to faint. I pay $24 for my whole chickens when I buy them, for one chicken, okay? I paid $24 for a chicken, and we want to faint when we see that. But if we went to the doctor, we paid our copay. Mine's $35. If I had to go get a prescription picked up and it was another $45 or $50, we'd come out and be like, man, that was pretty cheap. You know, it's because our mindset is that we can't think beyond the pill. We always want to think about that. And so we have to change the way we think. I'm not buying just a chicken. I'm buying something that improves my wellness, my longevity, and my quality of life. Would you pay $24 to improve those things? You sure would, right? So you have to think about it from a different perspective. Okay, so everything starts with stock. Your grandmother was not wrong in that chicken soup is probably the most powerful thing you can put in your body. So who knows about the bone broth craze? Anybody seen that ever? Anybody tried to make any, or have you ever eaten any? Because it's disgusting. Okay, she's nodding in the front. Yeah, okay, so here's the problem with bone broth. It's not for everyone, especially not for people who are incredibly ill. If you have an autoimmune disease, you need to stay away from bone broth probably entirely. What it does is it's too full of glutamates, natural MSG. When you eat bone broth, it irritates the neurologic system. We end up with migraines, anxiety attacks, depression. In people who have diseases like I do with my neurologic system, I probably would not walk well if I had to eat very much bone broth. So instead of bone broth, I want you to think about making a meat stock, which is just a shorter cook time. It's bones and connective tissue. You need something that's got joints. I have never in my life seen such a grocery store as we have now where nothing has a joint. Everything is boneless and skinless everywhere, and you're not going to get well on boneless and skinless, okay? So we're going to rebuild our bodies with the amino acids, the minerals, the phosphorus, magnesium, the fat. All of these things that are in bone broth are powerful tools for our body. I was drinking my bone broth, or my meat stock, for 2 weeks. When I was really sick, I was on it for about 2 weeks, and I thought one day, I leaned over to try to pick something up, and I thought I could feel the tops of my legs. And I said to my husband, I was like, I'm thinking I might feel something. And he was like, really? You know, because I didn't have any sensation in my legs. And that was the first little sign of something. And it also eased off my fatigue. I don't know if anyone here has an autoimmune disease or has felt extreme fatigue of chronic illness, but I noticed that it's very supportive for fatigue. All right, so homemade stock has been shown to reduce arthritis. It can regenerate cartilage around bone spurs. And they say, well, cartilage cannot regenerate. It can when you give it a proper diet. It's amazing. Your body can do so many things. It pads bone-on-bone degenerative diseases. It's wonderful for all kinds of arthritises. And it can improve illness from head to toe. I've actually seen research that shows chicken broths improvements in everything from Parkinson's to Alzheimer's to ADHD to eczema and psoriasis. I mean, we can go through the whole body. Infertility, the whole thing. You can do it with a lot of stock. And when I am sick, when I'm having a flare-up of my illness, the first place I go is back to this. So you make large batches, you can drink it straight, you can put it in your food, I cook rice in it for my kids, we make it into soup. You can have up to 5 cups a day if you're having a really bad illness. Anybody happen to get COVID, this is probably one of the first things I would tell you to hammer down on as quickly as your appetite will hang on for that. Because if anybody's had COVID, you don't have a whole lot of appetite, but you do your best. 1 to 2 cups a day is kind of a standard protocol for most people, though. It is the single most affordable and most powerful tool you have in your arsenal. You can make stocks out of the cheapest meat out there. So any kind of meat and bone combination, from lamb, pork, beef, chicken. If you do fish, you need fish with the heads on. You got to go to Lexington and get those from the Asian market if you need those. But that is an option. Bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs are much more affordable. If you can't do a whole chicken, you can use that. And the feet. Feet are full of collagen. So if you can get your hands on a good, clean chicken foot, I'm not there yet personally, but if you're there and you have access, get it. If you have a butcher that you know, we have Marksberry Farm in Garrett County where I live, you can go in there and talk to them and ask them for their offcuts. Ask them for anything random that they've got the bone in, it's got a little connective tissue, take it home. Make stock with it. It's wonderful. Add your scrap vegetables to it. Add your herb stems. Anything like that, it's wonderful. If you're caring for someone who's elderly or you have a medically fragile child, if they'll take it in for you, whatever way you have to slip it in, I would be slipping it in. I am going to give you my recipe for this, so you'll get it at some point here toward the end. So let's talk about fat, as high level as I can make this for you. So saturated fats have been villainized in our society for many, many years. And I could give you the research and I could give you the root of that, but we don't have time for all that tonight, so you'll just have to kind of trust me. A, D, E, and K, your fat-soluble vitamins, are responsible for cleansing your liver. When we want to get toxins out, when we're talking about detoxification, you can't get those out without fat-soluble vitamins. They're very, very important in the process. They also are responsible for your production of sex and thyroid hormones, right? Building your nervous system. My disease eats the insulation off of my nerves coming out of my spine. Nerves are about, the myelin that covers that insulation is about 30% cholesterol. It's very important. Your brain is 33% cholesterol. And somehow we have decided that cholesterol is evil and that we need less of it, when in fact our body needs a very sufficient amount in order to function at a healthy level. So it also moderates, fat-soluble vitamins moderate inflammation in the body. Cholesterol. We got this theory that cholesterol that you take in your food also affects your bloodstream. What really affects the cholesterol levels in your bloodstream is not so much the fat. Certainly the quality of the fat is important, but the thing that really hits it, makes your triglycerides high, makes your cholesterol high, is white sugar and vegetable oil. Which, when we tell you to go on a low cholesterol diet, what's the first thing you eat? Low fat food. Low fat food is replaced with sugar. That's what they put in low fat food. You're hitting the low fat salad dressings and the low fat dairy, it's full of sugar. Check the label. The other thing that they tell you to eat is oil, plant-based oils. Like, I can't believe it's not butter. Your country crocks, it's all right. Your country crocks. If you're finding a butter that's spreadable in the refrigerator, it's got a canola oil in it. It's got a vegetable. And cholesterol responds to inflammation. That's what it's responding to. So when you have high cholesterol levels, you should look at mine. I got them back the other day. My husband eats eggs, butter, cheese, all the things I eat. His cholesterol is 152. His triglycerides are in, like, way down at the bottom. In fact, his doctor looked at him and said, "This is annoying." My cholesterol is completely within range. And so it really has more to do with the inflammatory response that our body has than it does with the saturated fats. And I know we've been so indoctrinated to believe otherwise, but there's plenty of research out there on that as well. Research has shown that in the elderly who have higher cholesterol levels, total cholesterol levels, 230 or higher, have better cognitive function into their geriatric years, because that cholesterol is helping the brain fire more efficiently. If it's made of 30%, these ladies are doing way better on higher fat. So what fat do we eat? Grass-fed butter is our priority at our house. Kerrygold is one brand. It is not cheap, so you have to kind of moderate. Aldi sells a brand that's about half the price of Kerrygold, and Kerrygold runs about, right now, $6 for 2 sticks. It's pretty high. It's high, yeah. You can make your own. If you can get your hands on your own milk, you can make your own butter, which is always better. And Aldi's is running about $3 for 2 sticks. Lard from pastured pigs. Yes, we're going back to the old days with lard. But you can't get any in the grocery store that's worth eating. So the one and only lard you'll find in our grocery store is bleached and contains BTHQ and BHA, which are terrible chemical preservatives that we don't want to eat. So you need to find it from somewhere else. You can order it, or you can find local farmers who have it. Coconut oil, organic and cold pressed if at all possible. This is what I fry in. If I'm going to fry anything, it's the most affordable oil for frying. I get refined because it doesn't taste like coconut. You have to check the label. And I don't want my fried like it's been to the Bahamas. So for me, it's really important that I use the unrefined version. Beef tallow, duck fat, and ghee, those are all great options. If you're dairy-free, ghee is just clarified butter. You can get those online or in a lot of our grocery stores. And then olive oil, it should not be heated. It turns toxic really fast when you heat it. So that's the only one I use for salad dressings and cold preparations where I'm not going to be heating it up. That's where the olive oil comes in. I also use a fair amount of avocado. So what are the oils you want to avoid? Canola. We call these the hateful 8. Dr. Kate Shanahan named them that because they're terrible. Canola, corn, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, rice bran, grapeseed, and soy. Now, this beautiful picture is all the things that happen to vegetable oil before it gets to the grocery store for you. Did you know that vegetable oil is a gray sludge when it starts? And in order to be processed enough for us to eat it, it goes through a process of caustic refining, pre-bleaching, hydrogenation, post-bleaching, fractionation, deodorization, because it smells so bad you can't consume it. This is also where we end up down here. They plasticize it so that you can have shortening and margarine. It is just so highly processed. It's just not what your body needs. And it's in everything. If you hit the middle of the grocery store for anything, there's vegetable oil in it. So it's really challenging to get away from it. It's also in all of our fast food. Everything in fast food is fried in this, okay? And that automatically knocks all fast food out of my life. Okay, so what is it really doing? The first thing you need to know is that only 2% of our diet should be coming from these types of oils. Right now in America, 30% or more of our average diet is coming from these. So it's just way too much. We've always been told to eat these instead of eating saturated fat, because the theory was that a saturated fat is going to stick in your arteries, right? In fact, what happens, so these are polyunsaturated fatty acids. We call them PUFAs for short. And they're really high in omega-6s. This gets kind of nitty-gritty, but omega-6s are inflammatory to the body. We want to try to keep the balance under control. We want more omega-3s and fewer omega-6s. But omega-6s can contribute to obesity, heart disease, and inflammation. And of course, in small amounts, no food is a problem, right? It's all about the dose. And in America, we're just eating so much of this that it's in dried fruit, it's in granola, it's in spices, it's in everything in the middle of the store, okay? And when we combine that with where we eat out and all of those types of things, you're getting too much, right? The other thing that comes in our light oils is the neurotoxin hexane. When they process vegetable oil, they use hexane to squeeze out the last little bit of oil out of these seeds. Okay, there's no vegetables involved in making vegetable oil. It comes from the rapeseed. That's what it comes from. And they, instead of pressing or grinding these seeds down, they use a chemical to extract the oils out of those. And they use hexane. It's neurotoxic, and they leave it in the oil after they process it. There is no regulation in the United States to control the amount of hexane that can be left in a vegetable oil after processing. So when you get to the store and buy yourself a bottle, you just picked up a big container of chemical soup. That's all it is. Okay, so examples. Dirtiest stuff in the grocery store. Do you know tortillas are probably the dirtiest item you can buy in the grocery store? Dirtiest. Flip over the label and read them. First, they're full of inflammatory oils. They're also full of white flour, and they're also full of huge amounts of preservatives. If you want to inflame your body, eat those. The next thing, I just took a picture of that. Don't those beautiful little salad dressings look like they're healthy? They don't, they just look healthy with their big green organic labels on them. They're full of inflammatory oils and sugar. I flipped them all over and looked before I took the picture. So look for ones that have avocado oil as a base, look for ones that have olive oil as a base, or make your own, which is incredibly cheap and much easier to do. This is a little fun fact for you. Acrylamide, which is a chemical that's produced when vegetable oil is heated, is a known carcinogen. It's in fact, we see higher rates of lung cancer in people who stand over fryers in fast food restaurants because they're breathing in the chemicals from the vegetable oil. And it contains A large order of fast food French fries have the same amount of acrolein as smoking 27 cigarettes. It's just not good for you. Okay, step 4, kale no. Avoid raw vegetables. When you have a broken and sick body, when we ask our body to digest roughage, kale, like mustard greens, things that have really kind of tough structures to them, your digestion has to work so hard to get that down. And when we're trying to control stress inside the body so that the body can heal, eating these kinds of things can be very difficult. So the first thing you think, you're like, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to get myself some grilled chicken and a salad, right? That's the first place we go. But in fact, what you really do when you do that is just give your body too much down. So what my doctor suggested for me starting out was, instead of salads, eat all cooked vegetables. If you want kale, have all the kale you want, but you need to cook it, saute it, break it down, bake it in the oven, do something to it first, right? If you want Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, anything like that, roast those vegetables. And thankfully, it's really, really easy to throw a whole sheet of vegetables on a sheet pan with some oil and some salt and put that in the oven. And in 15 minutes, you have all the vegetables you need, right? Very easy. And that's what we did for me, because when I was in my wheelchair, somebody else was having to help with dinner most of the time. And that's what we pulled. My daughter standing in the back here. And I would coach her from the table and say, okay, now put that on the pan. Now we could pull that off. If a girl in a wheelchair can pull it off, you all can pull it off too. So vegetables that are cooked are easier for the body to assimilate the nutrients out of. Your body can pull out the things that are in there that it needs more easily. So that's another benefit. Just batch cook them. Throw them in a skillet. I buy a lot of frozen vegetables, and I just throw them in a skillet and heat them up. If you need to eat greens, try to opt for the tender things. So like a butter crunch lettuce, or a spring mix that doesn't have a lot of like spinach in it, or any baby kale. I took the picture because it was like, don't pick this, pick this, and this one does have a little bit of spinach in it, but that would be easier for your body to digest than the other one. Just give your body a break. That's what it needs. So the truth about fruit, most important thing you need to know here is that juicing is going to be really hard on you. Please don't do that. Everywhere we know, we hear the juice cleanse, right? I'm going to do the grapefruit. Anybody familiar with the celery juice trend that's going around? It's not as bad, but a juice cleanse is just sugar, okay? We've pulled just the sugar from the fruit. If you want to eat fruit, eat a whole piece of fruit and eat it at the end of a meal. You're less likely to spike your blood sugar with that. It's easier on your body to get that down. And you get all the cofactors, the fiber, the extra enzymes, and sugar when you eat the whole fruit, okay? But we want to stay far, far away from juicing. If you want to feed your gut, the bad bacteria in your gut, if you want to get a big whopping case of yeast infections or thrush or something, please do a lot of juicing. That will get you there as quickly as you'd like to go. The other thing, of course, berries are lower in sugar. So they're a great option if you can afford them. You would really need to go organic on those because they're pretty dirty. Green apples, greenish bananas have more fiber than a very dark one does. They're more sugar the other way. Green apples, and you want to do your stone fruits kind of as a last thing because they have more sugar. And then a cup a day is about all your fruits. That should be all your sugar in a day, is that. And I know when I first started, I would have, when I first started my diet, I would have a bowl of yogurt with a little bit of honey on it and a little bit of blueberries, and it was like the most delicious thing I'd ever had because I had taken all sugar out of my diet, and I just thought it was fabulous, and I still do. I still do. So let's talk about dairy for a minute. The dairy we have today is not the dairy of our yesteryears, unfortunately. Your grocery store milk is dead white water. I have no other way to explain that to you except that. There is nothing in it that your body can utilize or it's not nourishing. There's nothing in it to nourish your body. What they do, they heat it, they pasteurize it, they homogenize it so that the cream can't come to the surface on it, and they re-add all the vitamins in a synthetic form that they killed off when they heated it, okay? There's nothing in there. There's nothing your body can use in that. And then what happens, of course, when they homogenize it, they force the milk through tiny holes and tubes, and that physically changes the molecular structure of the milk, the fat molecules, making it leak across your gut. It causes tons of irritation in the digestive system. It has links to heart disease, inflammation, food allergies, all of these things. When people come to me and they say, I have irritable bowel syndrome, I am going like a goose. What am I supposed to do? The first thing I tell them is get your dairy out, get your gluten out. And usually within 24 hours, they email me back or they call me and they're like, you know what, I'm better. Like, you know why? I know why. And it takes time to really get those things out of your system. But if you have digestive issues and anything in the inflammatory spectrum there, you're going to want to get away from the dairy. So what do you do instead? I thought I was going to die when they told me I couldn't have cheese anymore. So I can have cheese. You just have to have the right kind. Raw milk is a living, thriving, real food. It's a powerful food. And we've been taught that it's dangerous and poisonous, and you shouldn't drink it because you'll die if you have it. And the truth is, you want to get it from a source that's trusted. You need to get it from a farmer who's clean, who's keeping things clean, who's watching their bacterial counts. I get mine from a cow named Sweetheart that lives across the field from me. And it's wonderful. It doesn't taste gross. It's not like you picture it to be. So for me, it's been a very important tool. So Dr. Crew, he founded the Mayo Foundation, which eventually became the Mayo Clinic. He used raw milk as a therapy for patients, treating everything from reproductive diseases to skin problems, cavities, obesity, everything with raw milk. It's just an amazing tool. If you didn't know, raw milk is illegal to sell or purchase in the state of Kentucky. There are a lot of places that make it illegal. There are fewer. There's some coming around to it. Unless you own a share of the cow, do is what we call cow shares in the state of Kentucky. You sign a little piece of paper and sometimes pay a little membership, maybe $30 for a year, and that's on paper you own a piece of that cow. Therefore, you can have all the dairy you want. So I've been getting mine from my neighbor, but the Nutrition Center here in town, it's like a 45-second drive right up Big Hill Avenue here. They have a cow share. You can go in the store, you can purchase, you order by Monday, and your milk or your yogurt or your butter is in on Tuesday. It comes from Sunny Pastures Farms in Harrisburg, and it's a really accessible way to get what you need. You know, Kroger's right here, and we say, well, there's nowhere to get any of this kind of food. I can't get it. It's under your nose, but you're going to have to go find it, right? And you're probably going to have to stop more than one place to pick it up, but you can get everything you need. There are farmers everywhere who have everything you need. It's amazing. Cultured and aged dairy is also fine. So let me show you what that looks like. If you're lactose intolerant, aging or culturing dairy makes it digestible. It digests up all the lactose in there so you won't be sick. Okay? So people are like, can't eat it, can't drink it. I'm going to have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, you won't. Trust me. You just trust me on that. Okay. So real quick, we'll talk about non-dairy or nut milks. Anybody in here a almond milk drinker? Okay. So coconut milk is great, but the first thing you need to know about that is it's just ground coconut pulp and water. It's straight fiber. When you drink a lot of that and you're not used to it, you will spend all day in the bathroom. I can assure you. You must be very, very careful with coconut. It just doesn't translate one-to-one like milk does. So nut milks we're going to talk about sprouted nuts and seeds in a minute, but the majority of the nut milks you're going to buy on the market have not been sprouted. So because those nuts have not been soaked, they contain what we call oxalates. And oxalates, when you eat anything that has an oxalate in it, it floats through your digestive system and it takes up all your minerals, magnesium, phosphorus, iron, calcium, and it sucks them out of your body and takes them away. So what ends up happening is we have a lot of diseases that are simply rooted in mineral deficiencies, right? You're not helping the system by drinking a lot of these nut milks that they're making you deficient, okay? So if you can find one that's sprouted, I found this brand. If you notice above the word almond milk, it says fresh sprouted. If you can find a brand that has that, you will be fine. Drink all you want, okay? You also have to watch the store-bought almond milks for the sugar content and the gums and the additives and the chemicals. They are full. So they're not always a healthy option. Okay, full fat, raw cultured cheeses, what are you looking for on labels? This is the cottage cheese and sour cream brand that we eat. It's good culture. You can buy it at Kroger. It's right next to the other one. It costs about 60 cents more than the standard. It's not that much more, it's a great deal. And then you're looking for the words live and active cultures. That's what you should be seeing on that label. Even better, this is the Fage yogurt container that we eat. You need to see a listing of those bacteria. If you can find the listing on the label, it's probably fine to eat. Just check the sugar content, especially in yogurt, because they sneak a lot of things in. We just buy plain and then we sweeten it at home ourselves. So pictures of those kinds of things. That's cultured sour cream from Kroger. If it says cultured on it, pick it up. It'll be fine, okay? And then this is the yogurt we eat, full fat. There are better options out there. Raw is better if you can get it, but that's what we go for. Cheeses. You can't have the Kraft blocks from the back, and you can't have the bags in the shredded aisle. You can't have it, okay? What I eat instead, this is the fancy cheese section. I don't know if anybody buys their cheese in the fancy cheese section, but that's where it is. So this is a Gruyere there, and you can notice they tell you on there. This one was aged. If it says on there that it's aged, you're great. But you'll also notice right here, this is a raw. This is a raw milk cheese. It'll tell you right on the label which one you're picking up. So that's great. And then this is a flagship cheddar. It's aged as well. It's pasteurized, but that's okay because it's been aged, right? So as long as you know it's an aged cheese, it's fine to consume. So it's a little tricky because we eat so much of the other stuff. But anything in a block and a brick, I don't care if it's the expensive Tillamook from the back section or if it's organic slices, it doesn't apply. So you eat less of it when you have to buy it out of the fancy cheese section. Okay, eggs. We don't have time for the whole debate, but labels on eggs are incredibly confusing. What I want you to know is that a pastured egg is the only egg where the chicken has been guaranteed to on fresh grass, okay? Anybody want to tell me what you think that picture there might be of? If you were to pick a label for that, you probably know, but hang on. Anybody know? That's your, what's that? No, that's free-range organic, friends. That's your free-range organic chicken. The reason they call it free-range is because there's at the end of the barn that the chickens can go out if they choose to. However, most of them never see the light of day. Okay, this is your free-range organic, and so it's better to know your farmer. Better to get them somewhere where you can say, because that whole country egg, you know, see a sign, country eggs, great, and you go up there and those chickens are in a dirty pen, packed in like everybody else's. They're no different than any other chicken. You want one that's been outside, a pastured chicken. So that's very, very important. Pastured eggs have 1/3 of the salmonella risk of conventionally raised eggs. They're higher in omega-3s. They're worth the purchase. Eggs are powerful in the things they do for healing a body. Very, very powerful. We eat sometimes 3 dozen a week. May not be uncommon at our house. 6 for breakfast for everybody. You know, it's very important. So if you're going to eat a lot of eggs, you want to get them pasture raised. At Kroger, pasture raised costs $6 a dozen. If you get them organic pasture raised, they're $7.99 a dozen. They're very expensive. It's better to find a local person to get yours from if you can. Okay. I don't have time to cover all the labels on meats with you. I wish I did, but I don't. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it simple. Prioritize locally grown if you can get your hands on it. I don't care if it's grass-fed or grain-fed. Just get something that was raised in Kentucky, right? Or where you are. Very, very important to do that. Pork needs to be heritage breed and pastured. If there is one meat that I don't really like to compromise on, it fish and shellfish need to be wild caught and not farmed. The amount of antibiotics in our seafood is horrid. The dirtiest fish is a tilapia. So if anybody in here is eating tilapia, I would recommend you get that out of your diet as quickly as possible. It's the quality of the American pork because it's bad. It's really bad. We have some wonderful farmers in this area that are raising really good clean pork, and it's really good to find someone to pick that up from. Sugar beets are GMO in this country, and that is your granulated white sugar from the grocery store. Okay, that's why I don't get into the whole thing about it, but that's why I tell you not to eat it. It's just a powerful, it's a dangerous food. So, but sugar beets are GMO. GMO corn is what we would call field corn. Most of us are familiar with that. Your garden sweet corn is not a GMO crop, and people get very confused about that, but it is more of the field corn stuff. We know that glyphosate has a link to lymphomas, to leaky gut, tears down that gut membrane in all kinds of ways. And now we're finding that people who have increased rates of irritable bowel syndrome and celiac disease may not actually be wheat sensitive, but they may be glyphosate sensitive. It's the Roundup that's causing the problem more than it is the actual wheat itself. Wheat in Europe is not like the wheat in the United States. Just because a product is labeled organic does not make it chemical free. They use different herbicides, pesticides, fungicides on organic products than they use on non-organic, but they still use them. Okay, people think that it's free from everything. It's not. And in fact, most organic foods are contaminated with Roundup too. It's just everywhere. Like I said, it's not always necessary to eat organic, but when you do, you want to prioritize the dirtiest foods. Just a quick list. This shows you the difference between non-GMO and organic. So just because something is non-GMO, it can still have sewage sludge, that hexane we talked about in it. It can still have growth-promoting antibiotics. It has ractopamine in it, just all kinds of stuff. So just don't fall for the non-GMO label. Like they put it on oats a lot. Oats are not a GMO crop in the United States, you know, but they put it there for effect. They want you to do it. All right. So if I had to pick 3 things for you to cut out of your diet right away, the hateful 8 oils, all the vegetable oils, as much as you can get out anyway, regular and diet soda, and white sugar. The white sugar is the hardest one for everybody. It's really tough. We're all addicted in some way or another. It takes work. We may have to have another class to talk about how we get rid of that. It took me 6 months to get off sugar. It was rough. Okay, so what do you eat? I know you're thinking, well, this is all great, but can you please translate this into food? Because I need to know what I'm supposed to eat. Okay, these are pictures of my plates, and I had these on my phone. So up on the left, I'm a food photographer for a living, just in case anybody wants to know, but these are done on my phone. The one on the left there, that's a hamburger. That's me having a hamburger. It's just minus the bun. It's got everything else on it. I didn't have lettuce. I did sprouts. Sprouts are full of glutathione to clean your liver. So those are probably Brussels sprouts or broccoli sprouts that I had on there, excuse me. This is from First Watch. It's very difficult to eat out on a diet like this. But this is what I got the day I was in there. It was one of their, I think they call it a farmhouse skillet. And it was potatoes and some cheese, avocado, 2 scrambled eggs, and some sun-dried tomatoes. And it was wonderful. It's good, isn't it? Yeah. And there were too many potatoes in there. I didn't want to get into quite all of those, but that's fine. This is fine. Like if you're out for an event, this is something that you're not going to get it perfect. You can't be like, well, where did the bacon come from? And exactly what did you fry the potatoes in? Is this cheese aged? No. You just do the best you can, right? Not everything goes perfectly. We were on vacation. I can't eat out. Anybody goes on a road trip and you just stop wherever, that is not a luxury I have because I will throw up for days, I guarantee you. And I don't want to ruin anybody's vacation. So I pack all of my food going and coming wherever we're going. It goes with me in a cooler. This was a Greek vegetable salad. It was just cucumbers, tomatoes, feta cheese for some fat, olive oil. It's delicious. And that's a little container of sprouted quinoa that I cooked before I left the house. I cooked that in meat stock and took it with me. So I had a little salad mix up there. This is a very typical dinner for me. Steamed broccoli, baked potato. Yes, you can still have potatoes. Potatoes and bacon and cheese are still here, people. It's wonderful. And then I did did cultured sour cream and butter on there. And then that's actually a piece of chicken that I just put Old Bay seasoning on and sauteed in butter. It's not breaded. It kind of looks like it is from that picture, but it's not. That's really simple food. Oh, and the brownie. There's the brownie down here. There is a brownie. You can have some of those things in moderation, but that one is made from almond flour, and it had maple sugar in it instead of any kind of white refined sugar, eggs, coconut oil, and it was delicious. So on occasion, I think those things are fine to have. I actually made those for my sister-in-law, who's dairy-free, and they were lovely. So why can't I just take a vitamin? Wouldn't that just be easier if I could just take a vitamin, right? And we wish we could. But here's the truth. Protein powders, probiotics, all that, $30 billion industry. They are making money on your desperation to feel better, all right? And the majority of what they're offering you doesn't work. It just doesn't. So you also should never be taking vitamins and supplements unless you know if you need them, right? We're just like, oh, how many of you have a cabinet of vitamins at home? We've got vitamin D, we've got magnesium, we've got a calcium, we've got a multivitamin, we've got all these single vitamins, right? When in reality, if you just eat food, you get all the vitamins at one time, along with the God-made cofactors, enzymes, and nutrients that make them work. You don't have to worry about, like, do I need to take C with my iron in order to absorb my iron? Why don't you just eat the food that happens to have both in it, right? Beef is wonderful for those kinds of things, and it will absorb itself, and you don't have to worry about taking a multivitamin. I don't take multivitamins. I take a few supplements that have been strategically picked for me by my medical provider, and they are not complicated ones. So it's not really necessary. You all have seen, I hope, seen this study. In 2015, the study of the vitamins in the stores, Walgreens, GNC, 4 out of 5 didn't even have any of what they had listed in the label in the pills. Okay, they're mostly rice flour, fillers, very little of what you need. And the ones you pick up in the store are such low quality, you're just wasting your money. How do they get by with that? Because the FDA does not regulate the production of supplements, right? And when you buy them on Amazon, you're at just as much risk. They've actually found that most of the vitamins on Amazon are filled with rice flour, and that's all. Okay. Now, if you pick them up from, when you're on Amazon, stores, certain places, professional places have a store. There should be a name brand store for that vitamin. So I use Standard Process vitamins. They're by prescription. Standard Process has a store on Amazon. You'll see it up there. It'll be like, this is me picturing it, little words up there. If you click on it, it says shop in the Standard Process store. If you go there, you're getting the real deal. But if you're randomly buying vitamins from who knows where, you're getting who knows what. Okay? Just not safe. What? Standard Process is what I use. You have to get them from like a chiropractor or a nutritional therapist or somebody who can give them to you. Just save your money. But we're just conditioned to believe that we're not better if we don't have a pill. It has to come in a pill form, and it has to work as fast as a pill, or it's just not right, right? And so just keeping in mind that food is built powerfully. I'm a Christian. I believe that God created what we eat, and if it was in the Garden of Eden, I'll eat it now, right? That's just how I think about it, and so I keep it very simple. All right, so you can eat all the right things. We can do all the food, but you have to keep something very important in mind. If you don't change your lifestyle, nothing will work, okay? A lifestyle is a big chunk of this. So 8 hours of sleep is priority. When I was my sickest, my doctor said you need a minimum of 10 to 12. If you're ill, if your body is fighting, 10 to 12 hours of sleep is not out of the ordinary. I can only do about 8 now, and I wake up feeling pretty good. But you want to prioritize good sleep habits, turning off your phone a couple of hours before bedtime, making sure that you're kind of like chilling down your day a little bit so that you can sleep well. It's very important. Breathing. When you sit down to eat, take 10 deep breaths first. A calm body releases more natural digestive enzymes. Your stomach acid comes out better when you're calm. So it's very important that you're taking deep breaths. If you have burping, gas, bloating, H. pylori, if you have acid reflux, you don't have enough stomach acid. People think, oh, I have acid running up, so I have too much. You don't have enough. That's what that is. So we always encourage people who have those sorts of digestive issues to eat more relaxed, and we give you supplements, and I use digestive bitters to acidify my stomach so that I can process my food better. Don't skip breakfast and try to eat within an hour of waking. That takes work. You will get up and think, oh, I'm just going to run out with me. I'm just going to run to the garden for a minute. And 2 hours later, I come back in and I've done something I just was going to do for a minute. But your body needs that set of blood sugar balancing protein and fat. Okay? And breakfast, everybody just say adios to carbs for breakfast. Let's say goodbye to pancakes and muffins and bagels and donuts. You will be miserable all day long if you eat those things. Okay? So I eat salmon patties, steak, hamburgers, all of those. That's breakfast at my house. Sometimes bacon and eggs, but I just eat whatever. Just breakfast food as a whole has disappeared for me. If you're an exerciser really intensely, if you do HIIT, if you do heavy cardio, stop. Too much physical demand on the body can backfire in illness. So light walking, 30 minutes a day, something like that is wonderful. Let your body rest. It can't handle all the demands. So exercise, we tell everybody to exercise. We do want you to move, stretch, and do light things, but don't wear yourself out, okay? An hour of a high-intensity workout is just going to be too hard. Next is chiropractic care. You are in the office of Dr. Blaze and Alexis Verity. They are my chiropractors. There's Blaze over in the corner back there, and Alexis is over here. Behind food, yes, behind food, the number 2 best thing I ever did for myself was become a patient here. And they didn't ask me to plug them, but I will tell you that the care that they give here is they treat the nervous system. A calm body is a body that heals, okay? And so when we calm down the system and chill us out, like chill out what's going on in your brain, chill out your system, it can do better. It can recover faster. And so what they do here is they work with your nervous system, kind of like kinks in a garden hose. They don't pop your back, they don't twist you, they don't crack anything. They work differently to unkink spots in your electrical systems in your body so that your body can work more efficiently. The simplest way I can put that. Is there anything else you would add to that? Okay. Thank you. They care a lot about your health. Well, if you've ever been to a chiropractor who just wants to crack your back and send you out the door, that's not what happens here. They want to talk about your total body health, and then they want to evaluate the way that your body is communicating out and help it fix problems, fix itself, right? And so valuable care. I highly suggest it. And then Relaxation techniques and stress management. We can't get away from what happens in our life. None of us can live in a bubble. I can't sit in the corner and suck my thumb. I run 2 businesses. I have a farm, 2 teenage children, and yet I make sure to prioritize my health, which I never did before I got sick. Okay, so we can only control how we respond, right? So finding ways to manage your stress is very important, whether that means you get counseling, whether you're sitting in the yard deep breathing, or your prayer, or your journaling, whatever it is. We have to learn to control how we feel and keep stress under control. Stress is worse than any food you'll ever eat. It will get you worse than any food, okay? So learning to control what we can control and letting the rest go has become. I'm a very type A person, and I had to change a lot of things about my life when I got sick. It helps a lot. All right, if you have a phone that will QR code scan, you can scan this and it will give you a link to everything I taught you, the entire presentation, along with some extra links to helpful resources. And if you don't have a phone that scans, I will see me after class and I'll give you, I'll get your email and I'll send it to you that way. So no worries if you can't pick it up.